You are listening to Something Rather Than Nothing. Creator and host, Ken Vellante. Editor and producer, Peter Bauer.
Hey everybody, this is Ken Vellante with the Something Rather Than Nothing podcast. I have Nathan Shapiro here from the band NOX SINISTER. Just came through the Pacific Northwest, based out in LA. I just want to jump right in, Nathan, and say welcome to the podcast. Happy to have you on.
Oh, happy to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, saw you done a lot of tour dates recently. We're here kind of early summer 2026, and seeing in the Pacific Northwest, some spots in Oregon. Coming right off the tour, I know you just right off the tour right now, and that experience. I always like to get the energy and the vibe of what it was like, and what you thought about some of the places you played.
Well, it was go pretty much the whole time. There was a lot that there was a lot that was in the plan, and then there was obviously a lot that just like doesn't go according to plan. Like, we thought that we would have way more time to just like shoot social content and promos, but like all that stuff goes by the wayside when you're just trying to find a shower, you know? It's like we've toured before. We've done different kinds of tours before. So we were pretty used to, roughing it and, sleeping in confined spaces, hardly sleeping, barely eating, all that. Like that was, pretty much par for the course. Cause we did, a European buy-on, couple years ago. So we were used to that. What we weren't used to was, just sort of having to figure out everything ourselves. Cause when we did our first tour, we had there was a tour manager of sorts, and, things were pretty much determined for us, and we didn't have to do any of the driving. But with this tour, we arranged everything ourselves with our touring partners in Gershok. Oddly enough, way smoother than I thought it might be. Obviously, there's a lot of opportunity for things to go wrong and for things to fall by the wayside. Not as much actually did that we thought could have. Obviously, there were rough spots, and there were issues with booking and routing and finding places to sleep. But it was pretty smooth. It was just being on the road with our good friends and playing shows every night, which was great. And I mean, I went to school in Eugene, so I was well familiar with Oregon and the Pacific Northwest. It was honestly just great to be back. Eugene was probably my favorite stop on the tour, just because I love John Henry's. I love the city of Eugene, and we just had such a great crowd and such a great energy there. They really gave it back to us. So, a lot of the places I had been to before, mostly the places in Oregon. So Medford, Eugene, Portland, we had been to. Medford was great as someone who, I've been to Medford before, and I didn't expect Medford to pack as much of a punch as it did. So that was honestly amazing.
Shout out to Medford. I've spent some time around the state in my work and leisure, and I saw the listing for Medford. I was like, fuck, man, I'd love to see a metal show down in Medford. So I'm glad to hear you got some of that back.
Well, I think that's what made it so great, is that, the people who came out to that show were mostly younger people. And, I used to date a girl from Medford, so I spent some time up there previously. And I always knew that it was kind of just it's a little bit of a sleepy little town, and it's very, how do I put this? Half of it is, I always used to joke that half of the city was stuck in the 1950s, so to speak. But I think that's why we had such a great response there and a great reception there, because, the errant youth needed a show like ours. They need metal. So when metal comes through to a place where, they're not used to having it, in a place where they can sometimes feel repressed. And a lot of them were telling me one of my favorite parts of this whole, this whole show was like everybody coming up to us and telling us how much they loved that we were there, how much they needed us to be there, and how much, how they were excited to have metal where they are, because that's, it's the soundtrack for the discontent. Anyone who grows up, and I can see being an alt kid in a place like Medford and being frustrated with your circumstance, feeling, the release that comes with a band like ours coming through to town, and just getting the chance to forget all of that and go nuts with a crazy, heavy, theatrical and blasphemous, frankly, kind of show in that area. So I'm glad that we got to reach people that way. That was one of our favorite shows for sure.
Thanks for the rock and roll, and thanks for dropping in and talking about that. I could feel the energy exactly like you're talking about. People are excited to be like, yeah, I got some fucking metal to go to, and not only some really good metal, and like I saw the description or the phrase a violent musical theater.
Yeah.
Like it was like there was so much for them to kind of, if they're gonna lead into what you're bringing, that they're gonna get out.
Oh yeah, definitely. One of the things that we always like to do with our show is, for people who haven't seen us or for people who haven't heard of us before, we like to give them something where they go home and go, what the fuck did I just see?
Yes. Yes.
The goal was always like, look, even if we're playing like a dive bar or something, if someone walks into that dive bar and they see a bunch of guys in black medieval robes drinking blood and waving a sword around on stage, we want them to, if we want them to go home with a story like, I saw the weirdest fucking band.
I don't know what's happened to Medford.
Yeah.
Oh no, I really appreciate that. I've seen them. Wasn't able to catch you live, but certainly seen the videos, and I love it. Like the expressive, like I love the expressiveness on even on the podcast. And I'm a big metal fan. Like just there's something like this almost like you can't quite grasp in words that metal brings to like that. Plugging in those speakers in the right spot where people are like, fuck all that other noise that's going on, man. Like, boom. And I like the energy, and I like talking about the energies, which is starting with the tours and like what's going on, what's going on with that. So, I was just wondering if you could mention within the band and recognize the contributions of those who tour and play with you as far as the NOX Sinister now.
Oh yeah, I mean, like talk about the members. So I met Eric Garcia, who has been our guitarist since like late 2021. Found him randomly on Facebook. He was looking for a project to join. I was still living in Eugene at the time, getting ready to move back to LA because I graduated college into the pandemic. So I had nothing to do for about a year. And my thinking was like, well, I can, stay here and rent a cheap house with some of my friends from the theater department, or I can go home and be holed up in my parents' house until I'm able to get a job. So I chose to just stay in Eugene for a little bit. But, when stuff started to open up, when it was possible for me to, get the kinds of jobs that I was like trained for and that I was able to get again, I was like, okay, it's time to go back to LA, and it's time to NOX Sinister was already very much a thing in that it was just sort of like a bedroom demo project that I had been working on with various multi-instrumentalists who, there were a couple of like singles and EPs, and there was like a demo LP that was also in the works at the time. But I met Eric on Facebook, and he joined. And one thing he said was like, well, the production on this is terrible, but the songwriting's pretty good. So, this could be fun. So Eric's, been my primary writing partner for pretty much the entirety of NOX Sinister out of its infancy. And we found Johnny Hines, the bassist, on Craigslist. Johnny had been communicating with Eric and looking to jam at some point, and then Eric messaged Johnny and he said, "Oh, by the way, like I'm playing with this band at the Whiskey. We're opening up for Last in Line." And then Johnny was like, "Oh, I'm going to that show." So though Johnny wasn't in the first lineup, Johnny was at the first NOX Sinister show. So from the beginning, it's been me, Eric, and Johnny. And Johnny is about as dynamic a bass player as you could possibly want. The guy defies every I like to say that he defies every stereotypical joke that you have about a bass player. It's like, oh, they're not really present. You can't really hear. No, Johnny wields that bass like it's a fucking like it's a third guitar almost, and he adds such a punch to the music that only the really great players can do in a way. I'm honestly just lucky to work with guys like Eric who write such dynamic music, and guys like Johnny who bring it to life and really give it that punch, really give it that rhythm. And then Ben Schwartz is an old friend of mine from high school. Actually, I didn't go to high school with him, but we were introduced around this time. Tried to start like a garage band 1,000 years ago. And when we were looking for a fill-in for a couple of shows, he hit me up. He's like, "Hey, I play guitar still, and I'm down to fill in for Knox." And I mean, after the first couple of rehearsals, he was just really getting it. Like he clicked with it instantly, and we were like, "Why don't we just keep this guy?" Clayton, our drummer, also started as a fill-in, and originally we offered him the permanent spot, but he turned it down at first because he was like, I've got another band. I don't really have that much time. And then when we had our drummer then exit, because he was like, I'm in too many bands where it's like they actually pay me money. I can't I don't have the time to do this anymore. We're like, dude, get the bag. We get it. It's all good. Clayton had come up to one of us at the time and been like, I kind of regret turning down the permanent Knox gig. And we were like, well, it's funny you should say that because it's yours if you want it. So, I'm just lucky to have guys that make me look good up there. Honestly, like I would be lost without these dudes, because when you find a chemistry with a band that just clicks like that, where you make such magic together, it's hard to imagine that you'd be with anyone else. I mean, obviously, like Eric and Johnny have been with me pretty much since the beginning of this, so they are long partners on this journey, and they make the music go so that I can write my silly little poems and lyrics and tell my funny stories and wave my shit around on stage. But I've been lucky to find guys like Ben and Clayton who, while newer, are so dedicated to the cause. Like they're so bought in on wanting this to go all the way. So that's the ultimate test. You can, we've auditioned a lot of guys and we've played with a lot of guys in this band, but I think when it came time that we settled, that we have finally settled on Clayton and Ben, the biggest thing that, sort of solidifies in my mind that this is the final lineup. This is hope. I mean, you always hope, but the thing that makes me think that is not just that they're great players, but they came in with a great attitude, which is important. Because when you're in a band and maybe you gel, musically, maybe you play good together, but there's just always that tension, and there's always that just like someone's got that attitude that throws the whole thing off and makes it not fun for everybody. That's like, and then also just the issue of like being a shareholder, not an employee, who see the vision and who will put whatever they have into the vision. So really it was, that's the audition for us. Are you dedicated to this, and can you hang? Basically, we know you can play. We've seen you play, but do you want this? Are you
Yeah.
are you with us? So I'm just lucky to have guys that are committed to the vision with me.
Yeah, it's powerful. It's powerful. And it's tough, like with multiple people, but you can hear it through the music. And I don't want to commit one of the fundamental sins of an interviewer and not get to the music early enough, because I know when I'm listening to music interviews, I'm like, give me some of that music. So everybody, we get the track here from NOX Sinister, Tell Me Father. Nathan, anything you want to say as we go into this track?
This Tell Me Father has quickly become one of my favorite songs that we've ever written, because it's so personal for me, and also it has had a very powerful effect on people that we've played it to. It's one of the ones that, for example, when we played in Medford, people talked about the most, because it was the statement that they needed, the rallying cry that they wanted, living in religiously repressive communities. In modern Western culture, it's like a very puritanical, like Judeo-Christian society that a lot of us are crushed under the heels of, and in less progressive cities, it treads on the youth. And that's one of the things that people that I've met who, mainly talking to people in Los Angeles, but people who aren't from Los Angeles, people who were in the music video on set having these discussions. And I didn't know about this until one of the background talent told me. They're like, no, people were talking about how powerful this is and how much it resonates with them. So I'm very, very fortunate to have struck a chord with people through this song. I think it's one of our most powerful songs, and it's certainly one of our catchiest, and it's very personal to me. So I'm glad that it was able to resonate with people.
Thank you, brother, and thank you for making the space for folks. Everybody, Tell Me Father.
Light my eyes, feed me
Love that track.
Thank you.
Love that track.
Appreciate it.
Such a good one. Thank you, everybody, audience. Hope you enjoy Tell Me Father by NOX Sinister, talking to Nathan Shapiro, lead singer. Nathan, you obviously have an artistic bent. You're talking about theater, the art expression that's involved with the band, of course, like the energy of metal. Love that fucking metal sound. It just feels nice. Was there a time or a moment where you like saw yourself as an artist where that happened? Or is that something you kind of, bounce around with?
The funny thing is that the art world has just sort of always been in my family. And I don't think there was ever really an escape from it. I think I was kind of doomed from the start, because the way that my grandmother tells it, she was playing Sinatra records in her car when she was babysitting me. And then at must have been 3 to 5 years old, she describes, well, I'd play the Sinatra records in my car all the time. And then one day you just started singing along, already knowing all the words. I don't deny this, since I still have the majority of Sinatra's back catalog committed to memory. But art was always just a thing in my family and in the household. My family always loved art. My father was in show business. My mother was in show business when she met him. My uncle's in it. My brother's in it. I guess that comes from growing up in Los Angeles, growing up around the entertainment industry. But, specifically like when it came to metal, I was 9 years old when I heard my first heavy track, and it was Shout at the Devil by Motley Crue. My neighbors were playing it on Guitar Hero, which was, I always joke that my dad is to blame for me becoming a metalhead because he helped get Guitar Hero produced. My dad used to work at CAA, and he basically built up the video games division when it was still an emerging market. And when the guys who made Guitar Hero were shopping their beta around, my father was one of the first people to play it and then fund it. And then now it's out there. And that was my first exposure to heavy music. I think the moment that when in my head I decided I'm going to be a metal musician, I like to think of it as a two-parter. So System of a Down is my favorite band of all time.
Hell yeah.
And the first time I saw them was at the Hollywood Bowl in I want to say 2012. I had just turned like 13, 14, and I saw them up on stage, and I'm like, I can do that. I want to do that. That looks like fun. And then the part two of that, I was already well on my metal journey, and it was my first time at Knotfest. This was 2015. I must have been 16, 17 years old. And I had already been playing, with like a local band, just like rehearsing in the basement and doing backyard gigs that we never got to play a single note at because the cops would always show up. But the Knotfest was the moment where I decided, oh, it's not just I'm going to do this for fun. It's I got to do this for the rest of my life. This is the goal. This is the end game here. But even before that, throughout my life, I was doing acting, I was doing theater, I was drawing comics and all that. So, making art was it was always in the question. It just, the only question that I had about it as I was, growing up was like, all right, well, what kind of art am I going to be doing? Am I going to be doing video games, film, metal became so important to me that it's like, yeah, I can do all that, but the goal, the one that I can't live without, the one that I have to do, I have to be a metal singer. That's non-negotiable.
I love it. I love it. Well, and thanks. Well, I wanted to ask you too, though. Like, what do you think the role of art is? Like, what was, I mean, you've been around it. You breathe that ear. What do you think the role of art is? For us humans, why are we doing it?
It helps us see ourselves. It's a mirror of sorts. I would not be the person that I am had I not found art, had I not found metal in particular, because metal was the thing that spoke to me when I was 9 years old, angry and sad all the time, never knowing why. Eventually, when I grew up, I discovered, I have I have depression. I have genetically inherited, faulty wiring. Well, maybe faulty wiring is too harsh, but something that can't be helped. That's just inherent that I couldn't understand.
Right.
Metal helped me get through that. It helped me be comfortable in my own skin. It helped me hold my head high and feel confident in this world. And it made me feel like, well, if I can't talk to the world, then I can sing to it. And it helped me find an identity and find confidence in myself, because specifically metal is it's a brotherhood of individuality. And what that means is that it's like, yeah, we all go to the shows and we're all wearing our band shirts, and we're all usually dressed in black and denim and leather, but everyone's battle vest is different. Everyone's wearing a different band shirt. We these bands and this tapestry helps us express our individuality through something that's shared, if that makes sense. And I think that's what the role of art is. For non-artists, it can be a number of things. Art is escapism, art is commentary, and for the artists, for artists, we need to make art or we will explode. These feelings sit in us. Yeah. And there's these things that we want to talk about and these things that we need to get out of ourselves. And if we don't make art, we're going to explode with them. Whether you're writing a script or an album or drawing, art for the artist is to help get the inside outside. And for the observer, it's to feel something. Whatever that may be. I think art is the hamster on the wheel that is the human emotion. Art makes us feel and know how to feel, because I've talked about "Tell Me Father" ad nauseum. I've talked about that song so many times. But a song that I haven't talked about particularly is Fawn, one of our newer sequels. And the way that Fawn was written, Fawn is very personal to me as well. It's very much an expression of things that were going on in me at the time that I wrote it. But the way that I wrote it was spurred on by a movie I saw, a movie that sort of helped me collect the things that I was feeling at the time. I saw this film, and for whatever reason, it hit close to home, and it helped me sort of gather these feelings. Obviously a lot of the lyrics are inspired by the film. If you haven't seen Saltburn, I highly recommend checking out Saltburn. It's that's the movie that primarily was the inspiration for Fawn. But when I saw Saltburn, it sort of helped me verbalize things that I was feeling at the time. I was going through really odd interpersonal relationships at the time, really confusing feelings, the questioning of like, oh my God, like, am I being lied to? And if so, who's lying to me? This weird kind of interpersonal conflict that I had with, a potential romantic partner and a good friend, and all of this kind of was swimming around in my head, and I was just so in my feelings. But then I saw this movie, and I'm just like, I felt like I had a full body orgasm because the movie had sort of helped me just like digest all of it. And then when I saw the film, it helped me write all of this, the mixture of the feelings that I had about what was going on in my own life and the mixture of the things that this film brought to me. So, I do think that art is meant to make us feel and give us color. It helps us discover things about ourselves. It helps us discover what we like and what we don't like. When I was a kid, when I was 5 years old, Batman helped me discover a sense of right and wrong.
Mhm.
So art is, we're all black and white comic book pages, but, taking part in art, whether it's creating it or consuming it, helps gives us color.
Yeah. Oh man, I like even the ode to art, but also like you talking about like just kind of like the different things that it does for us. I think like in the course of the podcast, I love talking to artists, but also many of us who enjoy art at the same time and being like, like describe the magic, like and just try to get at that.
Yeah, of course.
Big question of the show.
Yeah.
The big philosophical question is, why is there something rather than nothing, Nathan Shapiro?
Boredom. In terms of why is there something rather than nothing? It's just like, if we're talking about, the way that I first interpreted that question is like, why do this? Why make art? Why talk about it? What else is there to fucking do? What am I gonna what am I gonna do? Just sit around and like watch the world go by and not do this?
Yeah.
Why not create? What's the point if not? Here's a little story. I'm not sure if I've ever told this in an interview, but it's funny because it relates to Medford because it happened in Medford.
Heck yeah.
I was moving back to California. My brother and I were driving from Eugene, where I was living, back to LA. And we had to stop for gas in the middle of the night. And we go into a gas station in Medford, and I'm wearing an Ozzy shirt. And this guy, the gas station attendant, he looks at my shirt. He's like, "Oh, like Ozzy Osbourne, huh?" I'm like, "Yeah, he's like, "Oh, cool." I was like, "Do you listen to Ozzy? You listen to Sabbath?" He's like, "Oh, no, not really." I was like, "Oh, well, what do you listen to?" And he says the most baffling thing I've ever fucking heard in my life, which is, "Oh, I don't listen to music. I like the sound of my own thoughts better." And I thought, what the fuck could be so interesting in that thick skull of yours that you prefer it to music? First of all, I feel like if you don't listen to music, because art spurs what's in us. Music gives us an internal soundtrack. We hear our lives in music. When we're sad, we hear sad music. When we're happy, we hear our favorite song. When we're angry, we hear Death Angel. I just thought, like, what is going on up there? Like, not to job shame, because I don't job shame, but you work at a gas station in Medford, Oregon. What could possibly be so interesting up there that it is preferable to music? So why something rather than nothing? So that I'm not like that dude in the gas station.
There was
that's nothing in my mind. Like, when I think of a person that's nothing, again, I'm not job shaming him, but
no.
What kind of statement is that?
It was just absolutely confounding. I love being able to drop into Oregon and Medford, and the editor and producer of the show, Peter Bauer, has a little sound place in Eugene, Oregon. So I love all the connections here. Like this,
Eugene's home. Eugene is home. I love that place. Eugene is my serenity in a way. I go there when I'm like down and out. And it's, it's a small, it's a small like city. It's not, it's not, it's not quite a small town, but it's not a metropolitan area much either. But there's just some
Yeah,
magic.
for sure.
There's just some magic about the place where when I always go back, I just feel this calm, and I feel the wind in my hair, and I feel a gentle breeze on my face. Eugene is home. It's that center for me. And, I went to college there for 3.5 wonderful years, because the latter half of that last year was COVID. But, that place will always be sanctuary to me. I will always love Eugene. And I love Portland too. I've spent a lot of time in Portland, obviously, but I lived in Eugene, and I became who I am, I feel, in Eugene. I tell people that I grew up in Eugene, not to say that I actually grew up there, but I grew my conscience. I grew who I felt I was meant to be. I grew into the person that I had been wanting to be my entire life. And I did that in Eugene. And for that reason, Eugene will always be, it will always be home. And every time we play there, we've had, such great shows, such great crowds. I genuinely love the people of that city, and, everything that city represents. So it's, the Oregon connection for me is never going anywhere. In fact, I'm trying to get up there pretty soon, because it's been a long year with my job and the tour. And I'm just thinking, all right, when can I go just like spend a week and a half up in Eugene and just, do nothing. Take some acid by the river or something.
Love Eugene. And it's even cool for me. My brother who lives out east is a track and field coach, so he has kids that go to national, and I get to see my brother all the way from Massachusetts, and it's like right in Eugene. So Track City. Thank you for everything, Nathan. Nathan, I wanted you to tell the listeners NOX Sinister, the places to go to, where you'd like them to go to, what type of things they can see and hear of the art that you do.
Sure. Well, we're NOX Sinister on all streaming platforms. That is NOX Sinister. We're streaming everywhere. Our 3 new singles are out on Spotify, Apple Music, Bandcamp. We have a new music video out on YouTube for Tell Me Father, which we imbued with a lot of the classic heavy metal, horror, shock rock imagery. We really wanted it to be super evocative and just generally sacrilegious. It's a critique of the theocratic, nationalist, puritanical structures that are that have entrenched themselves in Western culture. And find us on social media, on Instagram at Instagram, Facebook, TikTok at NOX Sinister. That's pretty much where you'll be able to find us. Just listen to the music, watch our videos, and engage with us. The reason I like Instagram is that it's a visual medium, and that's part of what the visual half of NOX Sinister is something that's very important. It's a 2-parter, when it comes to NOX Sinister. That's why we call it violent musical theater, because the music is powerful enough on its own. But what I like doing with the stage shows is it's theater. It's a visual component. It enhances the music. It helps tell the story more, because that's really what all of our music is that it's storytelling. So that's what I can say. Stream us everywhere at NOX Sinister. Go check out our new music video for Tell Me Father, and follow us on social media so you know where we are and what we're doing.
Absolutely. And I myself enjoyed the video Tell Me Father. Was really impressed, and when you're saying the 2-parter too, is just like seeing the deliberate attention paid to what you're crafting in music, and plus the visual display. I love the excess. I love the a lotness of the whole thing, and definitely that's in the video.
Metal is a powerful genre, and it's a kind of genre where you don't you don't get to do as much as you do in metal with other genres. That's the thing about metal, is that it's big by nature, by its own nature. It's big, it's powerful, it's larger than life. So when it comes to storytelling through, because all I've ever really considered myself is a storyteller. No matter what art I'm doing, whether I'm acting, whether I'm drawing, whether I'm writing music, or whether I'm writing short films, it's metal allows you to tell that kind of larger than life story, to make that big statement, because the music is so big. So the imagery should be big to match it. And that's the fundamental element of NOX Sinister. We're all dressed up. We've got, basically made a mini horror movie with our music videos. So yeah, like that's the thing I love about metal, is that by nature it's big. So when you have a big sound, it, at least for me, it behooves you to make big sights as well.
I really dig it. I want to tell you one tiny piece that I didn't mention when you were talking about kind of like the outlet for kids down there in Medford and seeing the show. Right around that time, my brain was thinking myself of, like, I was just trying to say, like, that feeling. The feeling that pulled in for me right then is I must have been 17 for about a live show. I grew up out east in Rhode Island.
Yeah.
I was in Providence, so it was close to Providence. But it was Death Angel. So when you said Death Angel at the end, I was like, holy shit. It was like almost I was talking to you, because that's what I was thinking. It was me going to see Death Angel in Providence, and I was like, this is my thing. So
I love Death Angel. I've been lucky.
I love Death Angel.
I've been lucky enough to meet those guys numerous times. Hung out with them backstage. I shot photos of one of their shows, one of the Death Angel Christmas shows a couple of years ago. I was doing photography for them. Very lucky to have been able to be around those guys in particular circumstances. And some of them remember me for the most part, I think. But I've been lucky enough to be able to, like, hang out with the guys from Death Angel on occasion. They're just
something so incredible. There's something so incredible here, and just like just trying to celebrate metal. But I saw them on their Act 3 tour.
Oh man,
yeah. I saw them in their Act 3 tour, and folks, I'm placing this. It should be right around 1990, 1991. That was the show for me, and I just think of, like, sharing that type of thing. Fucking Death Angel as the connective tissue. It all makes sense to me.
They're such consummate musicians. They're one of those bands that just ages like fine wine. And they were just doing the Act 3, the Act 3 anniversary tour.
I saw some of that. I didn't see it live, but I saw it being promoted.
I go up to San Francisco every year for Death Angel's Christmas show, and I saw them do Act 3 live. They're just incredible musicians. I've been lucky enough to get to talk to Mark as a singer, and I've hung out backstage with those guys before, so I've been able to witness Mark's process as a singer. And I've gushed to him about how he's one of my favorite singers, and he's so unbelievably humble, and all those guys are not an ego to be had on the Death Angel guys. So I have nothing but good words to say about them, whether they remember me fully or not, because I know their shows are crazy.
Thanks for sharing that. And even too, even the energies, Final Point, just riffing on the Death Angel. I remember getting actually ended up bumping into Act 3 and then went backwards to Ultraviolence. The album in their catalog had a cassette of that, and I could feel that thing, tactile. And when I put that thing, I'm like, what the hell is? I haven't heard anything for me. Where I was, I hadn't heard anything like that before. So, man, big time shout out to Death Angel. I'm glad. It was the strangest thing, because in my head I was ready to yell at you and be like, fucking Death Angel.
I've got a Death Angel sign. This poster right here, you can kind of see it on camera. Yeah. I've got this tour poster signed by them. They're great dudes. It was Relentless Retribution was the first record I discovered by them. I was in one of my local record stores and I randomly picked a CD just based on the album cover. I had just turned 18 at the time, and I was randomly rifling through metal CDs at this record store, and I picked up Relentless Retribution. I put it in my car, and that opening track just blew me away. And so, yeah, given how significant Death Angel was to me when I first discovered them, it was honestly kind of surreal in the moments where I got to just, hang out with those guys, like outside of venues, backstage at the Christmas shows. It's kind of funny how like when you grow into the art that you make, your idols start to become your peers. And that's the cool thing that I love about metal, is that the way that this art is, how it is an art of outcasts, so to speak, that makes it kind of a brotherhood. And so you're more likely to, run into your idols and have them be super chill. So that's the great thing. That's what I'll say about the Death Angel guys. They're just great dudes.
Awesome. Praising metal to the end. Nathan, thank you so much. Thanks, NOX Sinister. Just thanks for the music, and thanks for the great discussion and celebration of metal, which I always try to do whenever I can on Something Rather Than Nothing podcast. Nathan, been great talking.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Take care, brother.
Take care.
This is Something Rather Than Nothing.